So it is my profound pleasure to introduce my friend to you. Please welcome Dr. Kathy Hearn.
He's so sweet, he renders me speechless with his introduction. Almost, not quite. So, good morning. Thank you for that, Marty. That's very, very sweet. And I will do a little mutual admiration society. I want to say that I love Marty dearly, and yes, we've known each other for a long time through all kinds of phases, and his brilliance has always been clear to me. And so I acknowledge you for being here in the center, because he's one of our finest ministers in terms of knowing how organization works and how to bring forth community. And so I'm so glad you're here with him and that you're supporting my friend Marty. So thank you for that. And I get to see his mastery all of the time, so it's a beautiful thing. And to work with your group of leaders in the co-creation process has been very, very special, to do it 2 times now and to feel the deepening of the group. And I just want you to know you're in very good hands. You have a group of very committed leaders who are here for the long haul. And they care deeply about our principles, they care deeply about all of you, and this experience of creating something new here. So it's good. So you've been in a month-long discussion, I think, of spiritual practices, and today was to be a talk about study, but I'm not going to talk about that. So I'm going to talk to you about change and about bringing forth newness. And to say that we're about a week away from the equinox, and I like to center us. You know, we are, as up in our heads and our spirits as we are, I love to center into the process of the earth in terms of the seasons, and just to say that we're entering into the fall season, and the equinox is a time when one cycle ends and another cycle begins. So one cycle ends and another cycle begins. And you might even be feeling that in yourself, that there's something that is closing out and there is something that is beginning. And at the end, at the moment of every completion, there's always a brand new beginning. And so there's a new phase that is on its way. In the Native American tradition, this season, the fall season, is the west direction. And there are 2 pieces of work that are to be done. That first, what we do is we call to our hearts the harvest of our good. So it's about taking some time to look back over your last year and to really see the good that you have gained. And the good is from the good things, but the good is also sometimes from the what seems at the time not such great things. I remember years ago, on one of the deepest, most difficult times of my life, my spiritual counselor said to me, "It took this to get you to do the healing you needed to do." And she was right about that the most difficult thing turned out to have the greatest value in terms of me unfolding and knowing really who I am. So this is a time to go within. The earth starts on a deep inhale phase that we experience as the winter season right now. And you know how to do winter around here. In fact, this is the first time I've ever been here when it wasn't white outside. So I'm very grateful to see this season. It's really beautiful. Of course, it's beautiful then, too. So, you know, we tend to turn within. It's a time for contemplation, for a little bit of life review, to see what it is that you have gained, and to actually start seeing what has manifested for you that you can call to your heart and give thanks for. The other piece of work to be done is to cut away what no longer serves. Excuse me, the stone of this direction of the medicine wheel is obsidian, which is volcanic glass. It's very sharp, and it's used to clean out wounds. And so this is also a time to release what no longer serves, people, places, and things. It gets intense, doesn't it? And to clean out old wounds, to begin to let go of grievances, to practice forgiveness, to do the things that allow the past to be complete. Because there is an important principle that says incomplete endings inhibit new beginnings. Incomplete endings inhibit new beginnings. Pardon me. And so when we keep holding on to the things of the past, to the grudges of the past, or even to the things that just need to be done, we keep the newness from starting. Okay, so I invite you to that personal work, and to see most of all the great blessings. When we are willing to look at our lives in that way, to do these times of review and appreciation, we can start to see that nothing is ever wasted, that there is not a single experience that you have had that has not counted. There is not a single relationship, no matter how long or short it was, that didn't matter. There is no business that you endeavored to create, or a creative project, or any other kind of thing that did not have some kind of value. Everything counts. Say with me, everything counts. Everything counts. Yes, and every person counts in one way or another. Every single thing. And it is because every single thing is grist for the mill of awakening. Do you know that expression? The grist is what was pebbles that were thrown, in a mill to help with the grinding of flour. So every single thing in life, every event is grist for the mill of our awakening. It is, you could say, what our soul dishes up for us to engage in, so that through the experiences that are very good and the ones that are difficult, we come to know something more about ourselves at a deeper level. And it is another opportunity to say, oh, I see what a contribution that's been when I thought it was actually the worst thing I've ever been through. And so when we begin to see with eyes that can see that, our experience of good multiplies. Excuse me. So I had a little bit of an epiphany the other day, which we would more contemporarily call a download from Spirit. So I had a download from Spirit the other day, and I was taking a walk. I live in La Jolla, California, which is a suburb of San Diego, and I live not too far from the ocean. And there is a walk that I have been walking for many, many years, and it starts in a little parking lot, and then you go down some wooden steps, and it's all green and planted and between some houses. And then it goes along a dirt path that goes along the cliffs above this little inlet of the water. And that's where all the seabirds are and where they come into their rookery at nighttime. I like to walk in the later afternoon. And then it goes down a further path where all the seals are and the pelicans and the other kind of creatures that are available there. And lots of tourists come to La Jolla Cove, so I'm always hearing many, many international languages. And I walk the path down by the park that is there to the end where some houses begin, and then I come back. And people are picnicking, and it's just a lovely walk. I love the ocean. I indulge my ongoing love affair with the ocean. And so the other day I was walking, and I'd done the walk and had all the appreciation, and came back up the path and was starting to climb the stairs back up to my car. And the flash that happened to me was, the path remains the same. That was the phrase that happened, the path remains the same. And I had in that moment a total life review. You know how they say you have a life review when you're about to die? Well, I had it without the dying part, fortunately, because I'm not ready to go. And I saw just how many, because I've been walking that path for like 25 or 26 years. And I just saw in a flash all of the different stages of my life and the things that had taken place during that time. When I started walking the path, I was married. I walked the path through the end of my marriage and into divorce and into being single. I walked the path through the relationships I've had since that time. I walked the path for my kids going from elementary school to middle school to high school to college. Now my son's 36 with twins. My daughter's 30 years old. I've been walking the path. I walked the path when I was the minister at Pacific Church of Religious Science pretty much every Saturday before I would do a talk on Sunday. I walked the path. I walked the path through leaving that community. I walked the path through being the community spiritual leader. Through every single thing that has gone on in my life, I have walked the path, walking, praying, celebrating, sometimes crying, whatever it might be. And what I saw was that the path was this constant in my life through all the changes, and I began to think about, well, what is the path, not just the literal path, but the path in myself. And I realized that there is in my life, and in yours as well, a profound through line. That there is the deep path, there's the deep path that we are walking that is really where we're living our life. And I think sometimes we treat our lives too superficially. We think that all the shifts and changes at the surface are what our life is about. When really what our life is about is how we're being transformed at the deeper level. I am still walking the path on the inside and still working on what I've always worked on. Self-trust, self-confidence, self-expression, love, and service. And the path goes on and on and on, and it's always the same thing, at a deeper and deeper level all of the time. And so I share this with you because I invite you to think about your own through line and where it is that you have really been living your life. And it's not at the superficial surface, not that the changes are superficial, but not at the surface shifts and changes. That's not what defines you. What defines you, or begins to speak, it's air conditioning. What begins to speak about your life really is how you're being transformed at the deeper level, how you're becoming more aware, more awake, more loving, more caring, and more alive. And you are the best you have ever been. You are the most awake that you have ever been. Chances are you are the most loving that you've ever been. And so it's good, yes? So I want to share the same idea with you about this center. Salt Lake City Salt Lake Center for Spiritual Living is a divine idea unfolding in time and space. And it has its surface changes, but it also has its deep path. It has its deep through line. And you know, all kinds of things go on in spiritual communities. I bet I can tell you I have experienced just so many things out of 15 years of having one, and then traveling around and seeing the communities. I know what it is that goes on. And centers are crucibles of change. I like to say that people come together in a spiritual community to grow up all over each other. And somebody said, "Did you say?" And I said, "No, but that happens too." We grow up all over each other, we rub our rough corners off on each other, and we awaken together. And that's one of the most beautiful things about spiritual community. People come and go, things happen, sometimes there's good behavior, and sometimes there isn't. Some people have or bring into the space what we might call unskilled behavior. That's Gene Houston's word for sin. I really like that, because we don't talk about sin in religious science. Unskilled behavior, though, I can get with. So all kinds of things take place. and there are shifts and changes and cycles that happen within a spiritual community, and yet the path remains the same. The deep path of this community, especially with Reverend Marty's guidance, is a path of deep, authentic spiritual practice. It is about learning spiritual principles. It is about being transformed by them, about improving your life, about coming into greater happiness and ultimately becoming more free. And very soon, it will be a path of greater joy, as he made mention to you. And so there's a big cycle that's completing. A very difficult thing happened here. And if you're here for the first time today, you don't even need to know about it because it's just about over. So something difficult took place. That cycle is completing. And let it complete, because incomplete endings inhibit new beginnings. In fact, let's say that together. Incomplete endings inhibit new beginnings. In other words, we want to have those new beginnings. At the same time, this new cycle is going to begin. There is going to be a newness that comes into the experience here. How do I know that? Because whenever co-creation takes place, newness happens. Because the intention of the process is to bring forth newness. The last time I was here and we did the co-creation process, this building resulted. So who knows what it'll be next time, except we know it will be all about joy. In this co-creation process, these wonderful leaders coming together began to, first of all, work with the power of group agreement, which is a very potent force. We use it all the time in the world, except we generally agree about what's wrong. And Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, says when a group of people come together with one accord and with one thought, a greater power is generated. Not because creative principle responds to many people more than one, but because the combined faith of a group reaches a higher level of acceptance. And so when you read, please come next week, and when you hear and read together the Sacred Covenant, which means holy agreement for the next phase of this center, you are invited into the profound agreement that resulted out of the work of these leaders, because every single word on that was discussed, right, everybody? Discussed and agreed upon, which makes it a very powerful document. And the new purpose for this center is joy, and you'll hear more about it. We were also working on having a new idea within. We have to have a new idea within us before we can have a new realization. So I'm just touching into the themes there. And so the opportunity now is that the wheel of newness will begin to move. And that asks us to think about what kind of mind do we bring to the possibilities of newness? There is a seed of newness that wants to be planted here. And the question for us always is, what kind of mind, what kind of soil do we bring to the seed? So there's a very well-known old story called the parable of the sower, and it occurs in a couple of different sorts of sacred texts. And the story is this, that a farmer went out to sow seeds. And so as he was sowing the seeds, some of the seeds fell along the wayside, and the birds of the air devoured them. And some of the seeds fell on stony ground where there was just the tiniest little bit of earth. And the seeds sprang up, but because there was no depth to the soil, the sun withered them and they died. And some of the seeds fell on thorny ground where there was soil, so the plants grew up, but then the seeds choked them off. The thorns choked them off. You can hear my fatigue from the weekend. The thorns choked them off. But some of the seeds fell on good soil that was deep and rich, and the plants began to spring up, and they grew, and fruit was produced, and it increased 30, 60, and 100-fold. And that's the story of the parable of the sower. And the teaching there, is what kind of mind and heart do we bring to the possibilities of change? The wayside mind is the kind of mind that is closed and hard and absolutely resistant to any kind of new idea. If you are that kind of person, you're probably not here. So, closed, resistant, unwilling to admit any kind of newness. You may know people like that. The stony ground mind is the mind that has a little bit of depth to it, but there's no spiritual practice. There's nothing that allows the seed to actually take root and grow. And so anything that springs up is soon withered. The thorny soil is the kind where there is soil. The mind has some depth to it, so a new seed can grow, but then negativity chokes it off. Negative ideas, holding on to the past, grievances, non-forgiveness, gossip, some of the least attractive things that we as beings do, right? So the newness gets choked off. But there's the possibility of soil that is deep and rich, that is available, that is open, that has been nurtured with spiritual practice, that is just open to newness. And so the seed can plant and grow and produce fruit, and all of that can expand exponentially. So that's the question for us. What kind of mind do we bring to change? And will we actually allow newness to take place? I believe you are a group who will do that. If I invite you to think about it, I invite you to think about how open are you to what wants to happen. So whenever change is invoked, there really is a mystery of change. And we call it the mystery of change because when change starts, when newness starts to begin, we're not where we were, and we're not exactly where we're going. It's a state that I like to call firmly planted in midair. And it's a mystery because we can't see necessarily the specifics. But the covenant that you'll read together next week is your guide because it's a statement of purpose, vision, and intentions that you can align together on, and it will begin to create the experience here guided by joy. And so the thing for us to do when we're in the mystery of change is to just keep taking steps, to take the step that we're on, to walk by faith and not by sight, Just like in your own life, when you go through really difficult personal changes, loss, diagnosis, financial reversal, it's so crucial to keep the faith with the deep through line of your life. And to know that those surface occurrences, yes, you must deal with them, and yes, they're transformative, but they are not what defines who you truly are. It's the same thing with this community, that as things begin to shift and change, you keep faith with the intention here, which is to love and to serve and to be one together, to create community together, to learn together, to grow up all over each other, and to come into a new experience of freedom and joy, absolutely. I'll share with you one other story about the mystery. Actually, it's about the kind of mind we bring to mystery. It's a very old Zen story. If you've studied Zen at all, you might know about it. But it's a teaching about a master and a student, and the student came to the master and said, "I want you to teach me about Zen." And so they sat down to have tea. And the master began to make the tea, and the student began to talk. And he just began to talk and talk. Do you know people like this? And talk and talk and talk and talk. And so the master was preparing the tea, and he began to pour the tea, and the student just kept talking and talking. And as the master was pouring the tea, he just let it come up to the rim, and the student's eyes were getting a little bit bigger then, and the master kept pouring until the tea was spilling over the cup. Those cups are teeny, right? So the tea was spilling over the cup and pooling on the table and then beginning to fall onto the student, who leapt up and said, "Master, what is it that you're doing?" And the master said, "How in the world do you think I can teach you anything when you are so full of your own ideas?" And so when we enter into a time of change, of newness coming, when we're entering into the mystery of change, we need to empty our cups. We need to let go of our fixed ideas, of our thoughts about how it needs to be or how it should be or how it was in the past, and therefore how could it be any different, and just allow ourselves to be open, to be uplifted in spirit, to be enlightened in mind, to be available at the heart center, and to have our hands dedicated to the work that is at hand. There is a poet, David Whyte. Any of you know him? W-H-Y-T-E. I just love him a lot. You like him. So do I. And he was speaking at one of our organizational conventions one time, and he was speaking about crossing a territory. And he said, whenever you want something, a new level of good, we're always cultivating a new level of good. That's why we're called part of the New Thought movement, because anytime you want, you can have a new thought about what's possible for your life. So he said, whenever you want to be something new, to create something new, to have something new, in that contemplation, a part of you has already gone to that place. And it actually already stands in the place of fulfillment. And it calls back to you and says, come this way, cross this territory, move through the things that look like they're resistances, get over the ideas of blockage and limitation, and come this way to this place. And I really like that teaching. And so I'd like to invite you to think about, first of all, what your new cycle of the fall is going to be. And if there is something, we'll do a meditation about this in a moment, is there something that your heart is telling you, a kind of newness that your heart is calling for you? And you can begin to practice in your contemplations actually standing in that place of fulfillment. And then just notice, step by step, how you're moving in that direction. So I invite you to close your eyes. And thank you for your beautiful music, Kopo. And so just take a nice deep breath. Just know that your inner knower knows exactly what to do with everything that I've said today and all the other things that have been said. It will take what is nurturing for it and let go of the rest. I invite you to feel your feet on the floor and your body in the chair. Just connecting with yourself physically. Isn't it amazing to have a body? And feeling the support of the chair. Know that your chair is supported by the floor of the building. And the building is supported by this beautiful planet on which we live. And our planet is supported by all of life. and all of life is supported as spirit. And I invite you to begin to feel your breath as it rises to the top of your inhale and falls to your exhale, so that you begin to feel the wheel of the breath moving in and out of your body temple. And know that at the center of this wheel, that truly is the wheel of life, there is the heart of spirit. And let that center merge with your own heart center. And direct your breath in and down into the deep place in the heart where you meet your inner knower, what is also called the higher wisdom self. It is the self in you that sees with the eye of wisdom, that is also the eye of love. And just take a moment to ask this inner self to guide you now. You can just silently say, "Guide me now." And allow it to bring up into your awareness a great good that you are desiring. It might be newness in a relationship. It might be a new relationship. An unfoldment in your business or your creative expression. Some kind of change that would mean greater prosperity for you. Just something that your heart is longing for that is good. And just allow that to rise. Without censoring or trying to figure out how it will happen. Just see what it is. And now allow yourself, part of yourself, to go forward and to stand in the place of fulfillment. Taking a moment yourself to actually stand there and to imagine that you're already in the scene, that whatever it is has in fact taken place, that you've crossed the territory and you're there. You're in that new relationship, you're in that renewed relationship with greater joy and love being expressed. You're in the greater experience of financial abundance, or your business is transforming and working so well, whatever it is. Just see yourself already there and get the feeling of it, that in fact it's already done, and how very good that is. And place your hand on your heart. And this is if this truly is something that you would like to see take place, just say yes. So be it. And let's take a moment now to see the same kind of thing for this beautiful place, Salt Lake Center for Spiritual Living. A time of newness coming, in which there is a dedication and a devotion to an experience of joy. And joy isn't always loud and noisy, sometimes it's just deep and true. Teilhard de Chardin said, joy is the infallible sign of the presence of God. So imagine now a community filled with joy, people learning and loving, having experiences of great good, transforming their lives, serving, being in happiness, and most of all, in the freedom of spirit. And placing your hand on your heart, if you're willing to see it, just say yes. Yes. See it and be it. And so in this consciousness, I just give thanks for life, for this day, for being right here, right now, for the unfoldment of this beautiful weekend, for the fine group of leaders and their intense and deep and meaningful work, for the leadership of Reverend Marty, for the divine idea that is unfolding here as the center and all of its people, as a bright light to all of this area and absolutely to all of the world, a place of joy and of love. And so I know and accept that as the cycle of newness begins, that each one here offers deep, rich soil for the seed to be planted and to take root and to grow, knowing that what is on its way is far greater than what anyone can imagine, and yet it is all so very, very good. In the seeing of the greater good, we let the past complete with blessings and release, knowing that all of it served, that everything has counted, that again, all is well. And so seeing and knowing that this great good is done, I give thanks for all the good that has been the long life of this spiritual community. I give thanks for the great good that is happening right here in this moment and the even greater good that is unfolding. And so knowing, in fact, that all of this is done, I release this word in full faith, and together we say, and so it is, and so we let it be. Amen. Thank you.